Hello and welcome to Verdigris Bonsai. Today I am working on these spindle trees. One is going to be wired and one will be shaped with clip and grow so that you can compare them. As always, the first step is to prepare the tree for potting by doing root work, so I will be back in a moment. It was a very hot, dry day, so I left the tree soaking while I prepared the pot. So here I'm making an anchor for the wire and cutting the wire to the right length. So that's the length of wire. We then wrap the wire around the anchor. I put a wiggle in the anchor this time because sometimes the wire tries to come off of the anchor when I'm working on it. So that helped it stay in place, worked much better. And then, as I've done before, each end goes through the mesh in a different place. I haven't put the mesh in. There goes the mesh. So we secure the mesh in first. In this case, it's just a piece of scrim tape because that is adhesive and will stay in place. And then we feed the wire through the mesh, making sure it doesn't go through the same hole. And we feed it through. You might well recognise this pot. It came with a Japanese acer, which has now been slip potted into a pond basket. Seeing as spindle, like Japanese acers, have lovely autumn colour, I thought this would be a good pot for it. It will really bring out the colour of the berries that you get on those trees and also the foliage colour. So that's why I've gone for this pot. It's the bright blue should really make a good contrast. My next task is to ensure that the anchor wire isn't too long and isn't going to stick in anybody should they pick it up at the market. So that's what I'm doing here, just making sure it's all safe. I do take the health and safety issues very seriously, and I do check and double check these pots. And now we get to the important bit. So the whole time I was working on that pot, that tree was getting a good soak so that the roots didn't dry out. It was extremely hot when I did this. So the main job now is to make sure that those roots aren't too long and that they won't touch the sides of the pot when they go in. The roots will grow, and it is important that the tree won't become pot bound straight away. So you give it enough root to be able to cope, but not so much root that you will immediately need to take it out and pot it up again. And obviously, if I do sell this tree, that is especially important. I don't want to sell it to somebody and have them immediately find that there are problems with it. The next step is to make a mound of earth in the middle of the pot into which the tree can sit as you work out which is the front. I'd already kind of worked that out while I was measuring the roots, and that's why I didn't spend a lot of time doing it. But I'm nestling it in and making sure that the roots are sitting in that mound of earth. The next step now is to cover the roots with soil. I've got a bag of Greenwood's deciduous mix down next to me, and that's what I'm using here. From what I've seen of spindle, it likes organic soils and thrives rather well in them, produces lots of roots, so this should be absolutely perfect for it. And the next task after the soil's gone in is to make sure that it goes down in between the roots and doesn't form any air pockets, because air pockets are very bad for roots and can cause things like root rot. So now I'm looking at the shape again, and obviously we don't need two branches that are growing so close together, so one's going to come off. I may decide later that I don't need anything that low down, but for now it's a young tree and we don't have many options, so I'm just taking off that one back branch for now. And next up, the wiring in. So you make an L shape with your wire, and where the two cross, you take your gin pliers and you pull and you twist at the wire so that it holds the roots in. I tend to do it after putting the soil in now because it just gives a little extra cushioning to those roots. And you keep on pulling and twisting until the tree is secure. That done, you remove the tail, just like that, and with your gin pliers, hook the wire down into the soil so that it won't stab anybody should they need to inspect the roots at any time. Now I'm just giving the tree a little top up with soil just to make sure it's secure and that all the roots are covered. And after I've done that, I make sure that the wiring hasn't disturbed the roots and created any air pockets. So out comes the chopstick one more time. And that is this tree finished. And here we are with the second tree, again beginning with root work. And this time I've given you a different camera angle so that you can see what I see, and I've sped it up a little as well. So that was a lot of root work. I haven't shown you the whole lot. We're moving on now to the wiring of the pot. This time we don't need an anchor wire because it has 2 holes. So we just put in the scribbin tape as before. So I'm making sure that it's well stuck and that it's not going to slide around when I apply the wire. The reason I'm being so thorough here is because this pot didn't have a flat bottom, so I wanted to make sure that the scribbin tape really gripped that strangely shaped bottom of the pot. As this pot has 2 holes, I'm putting the wire through each of the holes, and that it doesn't need an anchor wire on this one. The 2 holes will hold it. So the wire goes through each of the holes, through the scrim, and then I just make sure that it's even or close to. And in goes the first lot of soil, and in goes the tree as before. So the trick is to nestle it into the mound and make sure that the roots don't spill over the edge of the pot. So that looks good. I'm going to prune off anything that obscures that trunk. Anything that's pointing into the tree. And anything that's too low down. What we have left is a nice triple trunk. Just taking out a knob that's left there, and then the wiring commences. So we start by going around the trunk and then around one branch. And then using the 2-branch principle, you wind around another branch of the same thickness so that you can anchor them to each other. It can be a little bit fiddly when you have leaves in the way. Just be mindful of them, be careful not to trap them as you make your way up. I'm using one hand to hold the branch still and to move any branches out of the way, and also to assist with bending that wire. It was a little bit thick. There we go. As I say, it was hot, so I'm actually already quite tired doing this. Obviously, I could have sped this step up, but I do tend to shape the trees as I wire them, so I decided against it. We're now on to the second branch, so you'll be able to see what I mean by the two-branch principle and anchoring the branches to each other if you haven't seen this done before. I actually decided against going all the way to the end with this wire because it is so thick. I thought I'd probably end up damaging the new shoots, so I've cut it there, and you'll see what I do about that in a moment. So comes that second piece of wire as well, and then with my gym pliers I just pulled those ends into place, so again they won't be dangerous if anyone touches it, or for me when I'm styling it. I keep checking that I haven't moved the soil too much there. I'm now going to have a quick look at the back of the tree, consider what I'm going to do with the shape of it, and what I'm going to do with those shoots. So I'm looking now at my various gauges of wire. I believe that's the thinnest one I'm trying there. So that will bend that shoot all right. Absolutely no problem there, but lower down, it's the wire that bends and not the tree. So what am I going to do? Well, I don't really have a choice. I'm going to have to use a bit of that thicker wire on the base and then some of the thinner wire further up. Before I do that, I'm just going to bend these branches out of the way a bit, just so that I can work on that other branch without anything getting in the way. And it just helps me as well to decide how I want this tree to look when it's finished. So that gives it a bit of extra movement there. That one at the back is a little bit on the tough side, so I was very careful not to break it. Before I make a start on this branch, I'm just going to give myself a little bit more room and remove these low leaves. I've got no doubt that they will backbud anyway and form some nice branches. It's just to, as I say, so I've got a bit more room and I can see what I'm doing. So there we are. Now I can see the branch. I haven't removed all the leaves because, as I say, it's been hot and I don't want the tree to decide that it's going to just give up on that branch because it's got nothing green on it. So I've kept a few leaves right at the end. And now I'm preparing to wire again. It is important to avoid wiring over the places that had leaves growing from them, the nodes, because they could easily decide to bud and the wire will get in the way. I'm still applying the two-branch principle here by wiring one of the branches twice and then going up that branch that I haven't wired yet. It then anchors the two branches together so that when you're bending one, the other one holds it fast. This is also a slightly thinner wire than last time, which means that I can go all the way up and start to style the whole of this branch now and not just the thicker part. So it's a win-win. Removing a few of those leaves again. As I said before, I will leave a couple on there just to make sure that the branch stays green and continues to grow. And this branch is very flexible, so it's quite awkward getting the wire on there without bending it. And I'll be honest, sometimes styling it as you go, even if it's not quite in the shape that you want yet, it does help you to see what you're doing, and it helps as well when you're putting the wire on. Just makes it a bit easier. So that's why I do it, and it's why I haven't sped up the video. I assure you all will become clear. I'm debating now whether this is as far as I go with this, or if I continue a little further. I've decided against chopping it just yet and carrying on. I think really I was just going to chicken out because it gets harder the closer the leaves are together. Sometimes you just have to decide as you're working what feels right at the moment, and we're stopping it there. Now all that's left to be done with this branch is to just move it into a position that I like, at least for the moment, so that I can focus on the rest of the tree. As I say, this branch is really flexible, or at least this end of the branch is. That bit not quite so much. And now we're on to the piece that hasn't got wire on it yet. This shouldn't need 2 pieces of wire, this. It is a much younger branch. And as I say, I'm just avoiding those nodes as best I can, keeping in mind where they are. And threading the wire in between the places where the leaves were. The great thing with leaving a little bit of stem from the leaves is that you can see where they are, or where they were rather. And at this point we need to zoom out so that you can see what I'm doing with the end of that wire. I will zoom back in again when I begin the shaping. I think you can already see that you're going to be able to view that third trunk through the first 2. And as I shape this tree, this one is much easier to bend than the other one was. Just got to be careful not to snap it, obviously. These branches are probably not going to stay at this length. It's just the initial styling, just so I can make a start and they look a bit interesting while they grow. I think you'll agree that that does look quite a lot more interesting than it did when I started. See what happens when it branches. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like and subscribe so that you can see more content like this. Here are the two trees side by side so you can compare them. Thank you very much.